very concisely, if you have no experience with GRC, then starting your journey on one of those strongly opinionated GRC platforms is probably one of the worst things that you can do for your company, even in the short term. I think the long-term thing is easy to argue, but I would say even in the short term.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, I want to hear more about why, but I agree with you. I think it's a trap you could fall into for sure.
Yeah, because like I get it. You're new and you don't know what you're doing, and the promise is that it will firstly take all the thinking out of the equation, and secondly, it'll do most of the work for you, right? So like, how can you say no to that? Well, like when you think about it, it definitely takes the thinking out of the equation, but it actually replaces that and maybe exceeds those savings with the additional work that you have to do that often provides no value. And
Yeah.
really, like the work that the platform does by default, that's mostly pulling in information and data that you can easily pull from the source during the audits. So that's like the value of that data, as like it's probably not new. You could probably access that very easily.
Yeah.
And and in that sense, like I like one of the examples that I thought of is like you connect your cloud environment, GCP, AWS, whatever it is, and this magical GRC platform now pulls in all your assets, and now you're playing weekly whack-a-mole. You as the CTO or one of your like highly paid engineers, assigning owners to every VM, every database, whatever, because all the assets need to have owners, right? Instead of having someone that tells you, maybe you just write into your policies that you're like a company of 30 people and the CTO owns everything that's in the cloud.
Right.
That's it. So yeah, in that sense, you're wasting the time of your best people or yourself because you couldn't be bothered to do the thinking bit.
Yeah, I
So
think I think it's a trap too because a lot of I think a lot with these tools and even just in the compliance space in general, we're focused on the outcomes. We're like, all right, like I need evidence of X, Y, and Z. And if you only put your mind towards that, you forget that the evidence is representative of actual real stuff, like that's supposed to be implemented. But I think to your point, if I come in and I'm new, GRC program doesn't exist, and I go buy one of these tools, I'm going to be focused on getting only everything that's needed for this tool. And then I'm going to end up doing dumb things like trying to assign an owner to every VM or EC2 that's spun up when it's going to get tore down a day later. And it's like, you just didn't have a conversation with the people in your organization to actually understand what's going on. So it's so true. I think it's like, and I was in the army for a little bit, and when we learned how to do in like our most basic training, where we learned how to do land navigation, we got a compass and a map, and you like
yeah,
learn
yeah,
read a map, you learn how to navigate using an azimuth, using the compass, and like yes, when I got into deployed environments, I had a GPS, like it
yeah,
worked, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I knew how to read a map. I knew exactly how to like leverage. So it's just like I think to your point, like we got to make sure people are getting to the basics, right? Like and actually focused on actually doing the basics versus trying to find a tool that's just gonna why again, like they'll help you out. Like we're not saying the tools won't help, but there's a lot more into it, a lot more relationships, a lot more conversations that should take place beforehand.
Yeah, and like the thing that goes well with your example of learning like to navigate with a map and a compass is the idea is that when when the audit comes around eventually, like if you go into it with zero understanding, there's a lot of stress because you don't actually know what you have. You've been doing things, but you don't know what the meaning of those things is and why it's relevant to the audit and where you need to present it and so on. So there's this whole bunch of stress that's going on in the organization with being like unprepared or like this question, are we prepared? But like if you set it up from the start so that you understand why you're doing things, it's so much better. And like it also goes into this idea that like when you're asking people to do unreasonable things, you're really like chipping away at your own foundation in that sense that like if you ask
Yeah.
them to do one unreasonable thing, the next time you go to them, they're going to assume that you're coming with something unreasonable.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
So
that's
I,
going to be very expensive in the end.
100%. I think that's such a key point is that like people don't realize that you're kind of losing your goodwill by going and not having the conversation to really understand what's going on and learn first before the
Yeah.
request, because the next time you come, like you said, like the eye rolls immediately start. You're like, oh man, like now I got to waste more time. And it's like all because you just didn't take the time to actually
Yeah.
learn and like just have a conversation. Like, hey, how does this work? Right. And I always talk about this. Like, I never understood when I was an external auditor how I would show up. And it just seemed like the whole organization was in a panic. I'm just like, you guys knew I was coming. Like you guys, like this was scheduled for months. Like, why haven't we been doing anything? Why haven't we been preparing? Why haven't we had conversations? Why is my showing up causing you to find things out? And I think that's another one of these the old school mindset in GRC that really my Super Bowl every year is the audit. And I
Hmm.
think we need to treat GRC like product, like sprints. Just, every 2 weeks you should have some kind of an objective or initiative you're working towards, and it should be able to be completed in 2 weeks, similar in software development. It's like two pizza box rule. Like if people that can eat two boxes of pizza together, if they can't fix it and it can't be done in a short period of time, it's too big. Make it smaller. And I think GRC falls into that trap for sure of this let's just wait for the audit, the type of experience, and it's just not
Yeah,
used.
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. You're supposed to be like you're doing the work continuously. All the evidence should be in there, and there should be no surprises during the audit. It's like people have this that they seem to have accepted that an audit will be a surprise. They will be surprised by the questions that the auditor asks and the things that they check. It's like there should be no surprises. You should have a
right.
clear understanding of what sort of controls you have to satisfy what sort of requirements or control objectives, whatever you want to call them in a particular framework. But the idea is that the auditor comes in and you say, we do these things, and they check whether you've done those things as you've described. So there shouldn't be any surprises, but somehow people have accepted that an audit is full of surprises.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you kind of gave us a second take there, Martin, where I'm gonna have to make sure I talk about it in the post. Like we got the first take, but the second take is there should be no surprises, and I 100% agree. Like we should
yeah,
definitely be just that should be. I think that should be a requirement. Like it's like, hey, like if I'm being evaluated as a GRC professional internally, the
mhm,
audit showed up and it was as frictionless as possible. That to me, that should be your goal.
yeah,
How do I get the least amount of people involved for us to get the same outcome? And I want people
yeah,
to be like, did we do a SOC 2 this year? Did we do an ISO? Yeah, we did. I didn't have to bother you because I actually know what you do. I don't have to.
precisely.
That's
That's
why
the goal. Yeah,
I'm pushing this GRC engineering concept and talking a lot about it because I think currently a lot of GRC professionals are just middleware. They
yeah,
just go to somebody and say, hey, I need evidence of X. They didn't take it to the external auditor. The auditor says, what is this? They go back to the person and say, hey, what is this? And they're just playing telephone. And eventually, like the security engineer or the developer you're talking to is just going to be able to talk directly to the auditor because AI is going to help them understand the GRC piece. So unless you're understanding the technology and actually adding value from that perspective to help them collect the evidence better, but then answer the auditor's questions, you're going to be in a tough spot in this like new world where every CEO is being told to save money and do more with less.
yeah,
Like it's just going to
yeah.
be very difficult.
Yeah, and if we're like thinking about cost, then there's the cost of the doing the actual thing. And now if the person that did it has to spend time digging up the evidence to give to you as this GRC middleware person to pass on to the auditor, you're wasting time again. Time is money. So
Yeah.
in that sense, that should be directly accessible, but you can only do that when you really understand what you need. So yeah, it's and it's kind of ironic because the thinking part at the start is mostly like doing one big lift and then there's an improvement here or there continuously, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like if you commit yourself to do the meaningless work, it's constantly bothering you. So
Right. And it never changes. You're just going to do the same thing again next year because you didn't actually prepare or learn. And it's just like, just go. I think you're making a good point because like we should have empathy. Like we get it. Like it's hard it's not, we're not saying like the first part is easy and you just go have a conversation and now you're going to understand your entire CI/CD pipeline. No, but the investment is so worth it because moving forward, you've eliminated the hardest, most painful part. So yeah. Great take.
yeah.
I don't know how many pitchforks are going to be out for you. Maybe a little bit on audit shouldn't be a surprise. But I think it's true, man. I think we have to. This is a part of what this show I think is about, is like challenging kind of the normal thought process that we've kind of accepted, and it's like, no, like it could be different. Like you can do it
Yeah,
different.
and in ways it's like going back to the old thing, because what I'm really saying is get someone that like can get you started, which might be a consultant, but startups they always assume that it can be solved by a technical thing. There's a SaaS platform that does this thing magically, and you're done. Whereas like you could have some serious impact from taking 10 hours of consultancy. That's it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.